Hello, everybody, and we're back. It is my Friday, and it's my favorite day of the week because I get to do Fundamentalist Fails. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time if you are visiting. What are we doing? We're looking at some of the wackier and weirder and unhinged side of Christianity or religion in general. Doesn't really matter what, actually. But this was sent to me by my lovely wife who said, "Hey, have you heard of this person?" And I've heard of nobody. Like, seriously, I've heard of nobody. I am unaware of anybody that exists ever, especially in the social media sort of sphere. But I sort of said send it over, and the more I went through, the more I realized I had seen this before. Not this person. So her name is Gabby Hanna, and she sort of has had a hiatus and then come back with Jeebus, with the she's got on the God bus, and she's driving it back at a vengeance. And but I've seen this before, and it's kind of somebody falling off, or sort of being in social media, falling off, and then coming back with God to revive their career, or they found God in some way. And it plays out the same. So the more I sort of went through it, the more I wanted to talk about this issue of people using the religion, especially of Christianity here in sort of the Western first world society, as a lever to get them back into the public spotlight. And if you are familiar with all of the sort of revivals, like Nicki Minaj at the moment is on this big, oh well, I'm now Christian kind of thing. Um, and pandering to sort of the right wing. I really think there's an overwhelming thing of influencers and people, or sort of celebrities, or people that are sort of had the downwards trajectory on their career, um, sort of discovering God and then using really that concept as a real lever back into some sort of notoriety or some sort of career in the social media scene. So I found it interesting, and the more I looked, the more interesting it sort of got. So bear with me, because I do apologize. My downloading program decided to absolutely crap the bed, and it will not download anything from any platform. So I've kind of got to do it direct from the interwebs, which I kind of hate. I do like having downloaded stuff. But this is sort of, so I did not know who this person was. So Gabby Hanna was a Vine influencer originally. So she started on Vine, and was doing things like just Vine memes, songs, art, just a whole bunch of stuff on Vine. And she was really huge on Vine, made sort of a transfer to TikTok and that kind of thing. A few years ago, she kind of just vanished. And it was she's had a lot of controversy over her life, one of which she was accused of stealing jokes from other creators. Her defense was sort of, well, I'm not a comedian, which isn't really a defense. If you're not a comedian and you've seen something funny, you can go, hey, this is the comedian that said that. I've done that before, said, hey, as George Carlin says, and then say what he said. You can at least attribute what you're making to the person. So I think that that's kind of really crappy to do. And I think that she did have problems with, apparently she used a death in somebody's family without permission to sort of make content, and I think that's really bad. I think that if you're just taking people's personal lives and using it for content, I think that can be absolutely terrible. You should have permission to use that person's personal life. I don't think, if I had a friend like, well, Ember's in the chat. If Ember did, said something to me, or they were having a personal struggle, and I just used that for content, that would be incredibly disrespectful. If I said to Ember, oh, I'd like to use this as content, do you mind if I make a thing about this? That would be one thing, but apparently she wasn't. So she had a lot of controversy and just vanished. And then sort of came back. And I just want to go into a couple of things. Like, there's a couple of videos. I won't play them all the way through because they're a bit lengthy. But she sort of came back with a apology video. What she said was a long overdue apology video that she's making. And I'll play a little bit of it because it sort of is very... I'm not sure how you feel about it. I have mixed feelings. But she had about 5 point something million subscribers on YouTube, even more on TikTok. So she really was very, very big. But like I said, her main claim to fame, that's not exactly what I want. That's not that's a better ratio for me. I like a small head. My head's big, all right? I don't like a big head. So this is sort of the start of her apology video, but you'll get what I'm sort of seeing here, and I want to go through it all. So I won't play the entire video, it's very long. I'll just make sure I'm sped it up. Yeah, okay, fantastic.
Today is September 10th, 2024, which means exactly 10 years ago today, a decade ago today.
Yeah, so this was a couple of years ago that she did this apology, and this was on her way out. Like, she kind of did this apology and then vanished.
I posted my very first YouTube video. It was a Q&A, nothing special except my hair. My hair was absolutely positively majestic, but naturally when you come across like a big milestone like a 10-year anniversary, it makes one reflect. So I've been reflecting, and as I've reflected on the past 10 years of my life, my career at large, I feel like I owe a lot of people apologies.
Was she a vlogger? No, I don't think she was a vlogger. I think she was sort of a she did songs. She almost sort of did that really hard transfer from a social media platform to a music career kind of thing. So she used to do songs and, you know, sing and do all kinds of stuff. I think she was variety, but she did do some vlogs in the middle of that. But I believe her content was mostly music.
So I wrote some notes. I have a list. Okay, so the first bunch of people that I'd like to say thank you and I'm sorry to is anyone I've ever worked with, from collaborators, producers, management, agents, anyone from PA on set to director. Special I'm sorry goes out to MTV and YouTube Originals, because I was difficult to work with. I took a lot of opportunities that I didn't deserve and also had no business doing. There were a lot of people who kind of, you know, practiced and trained and wanted some of those opportunities their whole lives.
Well, it's kind of weird. I don't know why. Like, if you get an opportunity, and you sort of have that imposter syndrome, like if you do a really horrible job, like, I can understand that. But if you take an opportunity and it works out well, I don't know why you'd apologize for people who have also worked towards that apology. Like she said, she did this 10 years ago. So it's not like she's been doing nothing. So this is weird to me, that she's sort of making an apology for taking an opportunity that maybe there was somebody suited better. Like, I don't understand that, because, you know, when we're sort of taking opportunities, you can't just go, well, there's somebody else wanting that. Of course. But why are you selling yourself short? Why are you actually saying, hey, I don't deserve that opportunity? I don't know. Maybe it is true that she didn't deserve it, but it's weird the way that she's talking that she didn't. Because as far as I know, she worked for 10 years doing this kind of space. That's a long amount of work to put in. Like, even if I don't like her content, even if she's, you know, difficult to work with, even if she's the worst person in the world, it is still like a lot of time to put into a career. So yeah. Yeah, it's I got you. You weren't saying blogger, you were saying logger. Yeah, it's kind of, and that's something I wanted to mention. The scene is very, I don't know, it seems kind of artificial. It seems kind of very fabricated kind of thing. I don't know if she's out here chopping logs every day. I don't know if this is a favorite place of hers to meditate. I have no idea, but it does seem very much constructed for natural things. Now, hey, if she wants to do that, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. It's just for an apology video, you know, what's the perfect scene for an apology video? Like, where do you shoot for an apology video? I'm glad I'm not a vlog. I don't know if people are interested in seeing my boring life. You know, hey, I'm going to get a coffee. It's you know, this is this. I don't know if anyone would be interested in that. I don't think so. But you know, I'm glad I'm not a blogger because you know, I feel like the presentation of some of their lives, and I don't know if this is true for this person, I don't know them at all, but I feel a lot of vloggers, their life that they present is not the same as the life that they actually have. That's just the way I feel. It may be, you know, I might be paranoid, but you know, from some of the things that I've seen, especially on people that have been, oh, I don't know, caught for crimes afterwards and stuff, their vlogging life isn't their actual life, you know. And it's sort of, I was watching this thing on Netflix about the 8 passengers people, the ones that basically tortured their children while doing a Christian vlog about how to be a parent. And that one was like, yeah, obviously the life that they're presenting for their vlogs is not the same as their life behind the scenes. And that does worry me a bit.
And I was able to do them with really little to no actual effort in that space. So also sorry to anybody who deserved the opportunity more than me that I took from them based on like social media followers, etc., etc. This apology covers a wide breadth of people. So like I said, if you've ever worked with me or had an interaction with me at some type of work event and you were unhappy or felt hurt.
Look, when you're talking about opportunities and whether you deserve opportunities, opportunities come up for all kinds of reasons. Now, there might be moral reasons why you ought to turn down an opportunity, but I think that other people wanting it is not really a good idea. A logging, vlogging, clogging snogger. Okay, that would be a channel I would watch. I got to admit, although I'm not sure how YouTube would feel about kissing on camera. Usually, public displays of affection aren't really that good.
In some way, I'm very sorry, and thank you for the opportunities that I've been given and the patience and grace that I've been shown. That I definitely.
Okay, red flag number 1: the grace that you've been shown. You know, it's very weird. You always hear this in people that are converting. You know, you need grace. And it's like, well, I don't understand why. It's kind of this weird word that means that, oh, you need to be, you know, have all your sins forgiven and get grace. But it's kind of weird that she's saying other people wanted these opportunities and I got them. I don't know why she wouldn't deserve them, even if other people had worked harder. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I look at my position, right? Like, because, I mean, in a way, I haven't, you know, I might not be the best person for the job of debating. It fell in my lap. But I'm going to take that opportunity because what is the point of sort of, you know, knocking yourself down to hold somebody up, sort of rescuing somebody? It's not good behavior. So I don't know what she's talking about. But it really worries me that she's saying, hey, I got these opportunities, I used them, I did all of my stuff that with these opportunities, but I'm going to apologize to the people that didn't get them. It is kind of weird.
Didn't deserve, and the professionalism as well that I definitely didn't deserve and definitely was not displaying. So thank you. And I'm sorry. In that vein, I also want to say sorry to anybody who feels like I used them or took advantage of them in any type of collaboration or work setting as well. Whether you helped me out with a project and didn't get your proper flowers or didn't pay you well or at all. A lot of times there was just like a collaboration basis, and I feel like I could have done better with hyping up people that I've worked with and showing appreciation by sharing influence with people.
So I think this was to do with some controversy that she was involved in with sort of collabing with people and then not promoting them at all or acknowledging their help in the collaboration and things like that. And I appreciate that she's apologizing, but at the same time, there is a problem in YouTube and creator spaces of people doing work and then larger creators kind of just stealing their work. Kind of just like one I saw while I was browsing through shorts the other day and said, no, I never want to see your channel again, was I think it was like Hawk Podcasts or something. And I was really annoyed because all it was other people's shorts and some guy, presumably some guy called Hawk, just pointing at them. He didn't even say anything. He just pointed at them like, see this? This is important. You know, and it's like you are just stealing other people's shorts, putting yourself on it, not even saying anything, no commentary, no anything, and then just presenting it as your own material in order to get the clicks. Really horrible.
People who have helped me out, literally reading my notes. I was selfish, only cared about how I could benefit. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I got my lick back. I also want to say thank you and I'm sorry to all of my friends, past, present, who I dumped so much negativity on. I was such a dark cloud and was constantly just in something that I know what it's like to be around somebody who's always like in some type of like negative headspace. So thank you to anybody who's been there for me in those times. And I'm sorry for anybody who was affected or brought down by my just complaining. And also in that vein, gossip. I want to say sorry to anybody.
Okay, so gossip is a different story. Now let's talk about being in a bad place and apologizing for being in a bad place. So sort of intuition would tell us if you're in a bad place, you're not doing well, and you share it with somebody, it's kind of trauma dumping. And I get that perspective. You know, if somebody just, you know, keeps telling you how they're not going well and trauma dumps, I totally understand that. But there's a big difference between that and simply your friends and your colleagues and the people near to you supporting you. I think there's a big difference between sharing what you're going through and trauma dumping. I think that trauma dumping is sort of repeated telling people about your problems without any of their feedback coming in, or they're not acknowledged for it, or they're not, you know, you just keep doing it to them over and over and over without even asking for their opinion or anything like it. But I think that sort of sharing what you're going through, intuitively you'd say, hey, you're going to make the person feel bad, but that isn't the case. Like when you do things like, I guess this is just my opinion, I'm not a mental health professional, I do want to make that clear, but when you do things like group therapy, you would think, oh, you're just sharing these problems, you know, it's just going to upset everybody, it's just going to be horrible, they're going to suffer for. That is not the case. There is a strength to be found in sharing what you're going through, and that empathy being generated that sort of, you know, supports both of you. I think trauma dumping is very one-sided. It's kind of like, oh, I just dump my problems on you. And that could be what she's referring to. But I find it weird that she's sort of saying, hey, I apologize for going through a hard time. I don't think anyone should apologize for that. I think this is very, very strange. And I just want to point out just how strange this is. It's kind of apologizing for everything she's ever done wrong. And I'm not sure why it's so public facing. I'm not sure why she's sort of using it for click. Like, wouldn't it be better to go to those people directly and say, thank you so much for being there, and I'm sorry for, you know, if I trauma dumped on you? I'm not 100% sure.
Who, whether I've spoken out of turn, behind your back, shared information that wasn't mine to share, I'm sorry. Again, I got my lick back, and this was a big, big lesson for me in general about, speaking about somebody when they're not in the room in a negative way, or in a way that is overstepping personal boundaries. So that's a big one for me. I feel like I owe that apology to a lot of people from literally my whole life, and especially in my entertainment career. So sorry about that. I genuinely have learned and grown in that area a lot, and am still to this day. It's really hard not to. Oh, I also want to say sorry to.
Yeah, I mean, that can be a problem, definitely. That definitely can be a problem. There's certain people that I have been critical about in my private life. I try to be upfront, and if I'm saying it in private, I will say it in public as well if I'm critical of somebody. There's sometimes where you do vent steam about somebody, but you don't want to make a drama about it online. So I certainly have said critical things to people, but not, made a video about it or stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of, yeah, if you're going around like spreading gossip about people, then yeah, there might be something to apologize there to about. If you have concerns about something and you share it privately and you don't want to start gossip, you have concerns, I can certainly understand why you shouldn't be sorry about that. I do remember on Amy Newman's channel, I started on Amy Newman's channel. That was my start in this wild ride that we call YouTube. So Amy Newman used to do a midnight ranting, like a skeptic show at midnight, and of course that was during the day for me. It was perfect kind of thing. So I would go on there, and it was fine for me. And it was a great show. It was fantastic. I think Amy's moved on a bit to do like more focus on her career. She went and got I believe, a master's in computer science. So she does kind of educational stuff. Really awesome person. But there was one person who was showing up that we had concerns about, and I said to her, "Look, I feel like I have concerns about this person," and I don't see that as like gossiping or starting gossip. It's just, sometimes you discuss with people things in confidence, or people in confidence, that you have worries about, and I don't see that as gossip, because I would be horrified if she went and spread that around. It's not supposed to be spread around. But I think that it depends on what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to hurt the person by spreading stuff that may not be true, absolutely, absolutely, that's wrong. If you're discussing somebody because you have genuine concerns and you want to hear advice from someone, or hear like sort of get some input, that may not be.
To anybody who was a subject of a storytime video, or who I shared a personal experience with, or even not a personal experience, like anytime I've ever engaged in
Yeah, so this was a controversy. She sort of used a personal experience about somebody that had passed away, and their family was upset. And she didn't ask for permission. She didn't check to see whether it was okay to use that person's, she just used a lot for story. But this is really what I was sort of trying to show. And I agree, Sapphire, the tone does seem slightly off. It does seem like, I don't know what it is about it. There's something that does seem off about it. I wonder if I can put myself up a bit. No, I can't. That's okay. I totally get where you're coming from. Totally get where you're coming from. Something seems off. I get you. And it does seem like she's blowing past these really fast. And it seems like she's apologizing to everyone. Now, it is that apologizing to everyone that had me concerned, because if you're unfamiliar with things like AA or NA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or Narcotics Anonymous, or any of that kind of stuff, it really is, you've got to apologize for all your wrongs to everybody. Like, you should seek out anybody you've ever wronged and apologize for them because of your behavior, kind of thing. So I don't know this person. I don't know what they were going through, but I suspect, and this is just a personal opinion, I suspect that they may have been starting on a program of some sort. I don't know what kind. So this is sort of the apology, but why you would do this as content rather than going out and seeking them is beyond me. So that got me curious, and I looked around for something similar. So this was when was this? Hang on a second. This was 1 year ago. Okay, so September 2024. What I found was this video from March 2024, 1 year sober, right? And sort of, so I wanna sort of take you through this of maybe what the timeline was. And don't forget, this is on her way out of social media.
handing out weed cartridges. He was giving out one at a time, but for whatever reason, he gave me like 6, and then I was with somebody and they gave him 6 too. So then my friend comes over and then he leaves his behind. So all of a sudden I have 12 weed cartridges in my house, but I didn't smoke them for a really long time. So fast forward a little bit and I'm going through some stuff, you know, typical. And there were a couple nights where I started drinking alone. And right away I was just like, nope, this is not going to be me. This is not going to be my life.
Yeah, so drinking alone, yeah, that's usually a sign of it can be a sign of alcoholism. It can be, especially excessive drinking alone, but it's not necessarily so. But, you know, obviously she sees it as a warning sign. Gotcha.
I'd rather be a drug addict. So I started smoking by myself at night, and mostly I would just sit on my couch, put on a show, and draw or write. It was so easy to get kind of lost in the work, but I also want to say that it was not fun or enjoyable. I was always scared. I was super paranoid. Like every little sound freaked me out. I remember one night I was in bed and I saw a teddy bear laying on the ground, and I knew it was a teddy bear. For a fact, I knew it was a teddy bear, but for some reason inside I was just like, but what if it's a dead body? So a couple years in, this became a nightly routine for me. At this point, very much the unwind at the end of the day with a glass of wine type smoker. So then I move into my house and things got kind of dark and chaotic.
Okay, I think sort of calling her a pothead is sort of, you know, really regressive, really not helpful at all. Now, just for your, you know, just my experience, I definitely have had a history of getting paranoid on weed as well. Now, I know that a lot of you smoke. I don't have any kind of you know, I don't look down on people. I think it's totally fine. I think it's absolutely fine. No problem at all. I did smoke some weed for like in my 20s for a extended period of time, maybe for about a year or so. I was like high all the time. Just sort of, you know, had that beach lifestyle of going down the beach kind of thing. And it was fine as long as I was sort of in a safe environment. But if I wasn't in a safe environment, if it was in an environment that I didn't know, I could get paranoid about stuff. And that's a problem. Because, you know, paranoia is not a good thing to go through. So that's probably one of the main reasons why I don't smoke weed, because I do not like the effect when that paranoia sinks in. And I know that it does upon occasion. Now, it may be hard for you to hear, and I know a lot of people get angry when I say this, but weed can cause a schizophrenic reaction in a certain percentage of the population. Okay, it can cause paranoia. It can cause seeing things that aren't there, hallucinations. Basically, it can have these side effects. Now, if you're not affected by that, totally cool, totally fine, all good. I don't not saying you should stop. I'm not saying anybody shouldn't or should or whatever. I'm, you know, no question, no thing. But people say, oh, weed's completely harmless. That isn't necessarily true. Although for the overwhelming majority, it is. For the overwhelming majority, it is. For a tiny proportion, it can trigger some mental health or neurological effects that are very, very unpleasant. And that has, you know, you have to be aware of that. I don't mind people saying, hey, weed should be legalized. I happen to agree. Out of alcohol and weed, I would support weed being legal out of the two. I think that weed causes so much less social issues than alcohol does. Okay, alcohol causes a lot of social issues. It's addictive as well. Weed can be addictive, but probably not as addictive as alcohol. You know, I really think that I'm not making a blanket statement here is what I'm saying. I'm saying for me, because of, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, I felt a bit paranoid. Number two, I kind of felt myself slower in the days afterwards kind of thing. And for a fair amount of time, not a huge amount, but a fair amount of time, I just didn't feel up to speed mentally. And when I was working sort of in an IT field, it felt like I couldn't get that same edge that I had, that real cognitive edge of, you know, knowing what's going on and being able to, you know, get problems sorted really quick. So I just decided not to, and that's a personal choice. I've got no problem with anybody doing anything. I want to make that clear. But what she's describing is the same feeling that I've described. Well, you know what? I certainly I would say to people, feel free to try it. But like anything, Sapphire, like anything, I'm not saying for people to break the law. If it is illegal where you are, don't do it, because breaking the law and having something on your record is terrible. If it is legal, hey, try it, but try it in a safe place with people that know what they're doing so they can take care of you. And that's the same for anything, really. If you're trying something new for the first time, whether it be weed or whether it be abseiling, do it with people that know what they're doing, are able to take care of you, and in a safe place, right? Like any new thing. Once you know what effect it has on your system, you might be able to go out there, but for the first time, have people around you. I remember trying a lot of different substance when I was younger, and having people around that know what's going on and know what to expect is good. It's a good thing because they can take care of you. Yeah, sure, Beck. I'm not putting people who like their weed down. Certainly not. Definitely not what I'm doing. Okay, what I'm really doing is tying in her in sort of in I think it was March or May, I think, her sobriety sort of, hey, I had weed and I had to stop, with a big apology list that came out maybe a few months later. The timeline fits for somebody that has gone, hey, I've got a problem. And that's fair. Like, if you think that you can't get off weed is addictive. It's not very addictive. I think it's probably more psychologically addictive than physically addictive. Like, your body can fairly shake it easily. So with addiction, there's two things. There's like a physical addiction where your neuroreceptors actually want the thing, and then there's psychological, which is just behavioral, right? And there's some substances that, it really doesn't have that. Your neuroreceptors work fine. Like, they just go, okay, I don't have it, that's fine. There's others where, like nicotine, for instance. Cigarettes are both psychologically addictive because you've got the hand-mouth thing, and they're incredibly physically addictive. Your neurotransmitters will send stress signals when they don't get it. Weed isn't that bad. Alcohol is probably more addictive on both fronts, psychologically and physically, than weed is. Like, it's harder to get off alcohol. It's harder for an alcoholic to get off alcohol than it is for, a frequent weed smoker to get off weed. I found it incredibly easy to stop, I just stopped, basically. So yeah, I'm not hassling anybody. I'm not criticizing anybody. Your choices are your choices. Look, I've been asked before, and this is just me. Again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not an expert on it, but people have said, hey, I do this. Is this a problem? The answer is, does it disrupt your life and prevent you from doing things you would like to do? If you want to have a good marriage, for instance, and your drinking seems to stop that, then that is a problem, right? If you want things that you can't achieve because of the substance in your life, that's a problem. If you're just going out and having fun and there's nothing that's disrupting, you just go to work the next day, or you can do everything you want, it's not a problem. But if it is disrupting your life, then it might be time to question, hey, is this good for me to have this in my life? But I'm not making any judgments on people. That's up for, people in general to decide. Only you can decide.
For the first time in literally 6 years, I stopped posting. Like, literally for 6 years, from the week I started posting, I did not miss an upload. So I go a few weeks without uploading, and somebody suggested I do Vlogmas. So I'm like, okay, let me give this a try. So I try filming, and it's kind of hard. Like, it didn't feel natural. I was really uncomfortable, and I was kind of out of the rhythm of doing it. Like, I was on such a train for a minute that once it crashed, I was kind of scared to get back on,
It's kind of weird. This is sort of a talking about how her life's sort of, obviously had a disruption, and she's indicating, or at least seemed to indicating, that part of the problem was this substance, was cannabis. So it's kind of weird that she's doing the sound effects over it and things like that. Like, it's, it's not a funny thing. It is a serious thing when somebody has a career they have substance and it disrupts that career. And look, some people they have substance, they have cannabis, and they're fine. Their career is fine. They do fine, you know. And I think it was Bill Hicks that sort of said, "Hey, I did drugs, didn't lose my wife, my house, my dog, my job, anything. I didn't lose anything," kind of thing. And it's like, just had a great time. Fine, that's my opinion. Fine, I don't care. But if you are, there are ways to help you, and I think that's what she's going through. So I do want to give sort of some empathy for her, that, hey, I encountered the same. I realized that, hey, weed made my job a lot harder to do. I could still do it, but it made it harder, a lot harder.
I mean, so for the first time literally ever, I smoked before I filmed. Like, I'd never filmed high before, maybe once. Actually, definitely once. So I'm high, I'm talking out loud with nobody but myself, the camera, and God to hear what I'm saying. I was able to...
Yeah, she drops the God bomb. So you'll probably see what's coming. You're an alcoholic and cigarette smoker. Hard time giving up. Cigarettes were harder. Yeah, look, cigarettes are brutal. I used to be a cigarette smoker. I gave it up. It was tough. Probably one of the best decisions of my life, to be honest with you. It definitely is worth it. But yeah, nicotine and cigarettes is really frigging hard, which is why I'm kind of this whole vape thing. I'm very like, well, yeah, it's probably not as bad as cigarettes. Like, I get you. It doesn't have the tar and everything. You know, I totally get you. But at the same time, I don't know how difficult it is to give up vaping. And from what I've seen, and this is anecdotal, granted, but it seems to be very difficult as well. And that concerns me, because when you're starting somebody in so young on it, and then, you know, they've been vaping all their life, it becomes very hard. And I know nicotine is incredibly hard.
Actually uncover my own thoughts. So like in therapy, for example, even though I was there in this, you know, judgment-free zone to talk about things, I just couldn't get there. I am a very, very, very socially anxious person. And I know that if you're watching this and you literally only know me from the internet, you probably, maybe not probably, but maybe might not guess that. I'm literally in a room by myself talking to an inanimate object.
Yeah, so I do get social anxiety as well. It is linked. It's basically a product of my autism and ADHD, or mostly my autism, that I feel uncomfortable around people because I don't know, especially when I'm tired, I don't know what they mean. I don't know what they're trying to convey. I get very confused around people. People will know this about me. I kind of, you know, sometimes when I'm talking to people, I get confused and I don't know what they're trying to say, and I'm trying to analyze it, and people are going, "What is your problem?" And I'm like, "I'm just confused." So I totally, you know, that resonates with me. I totally get it. That social anxiety where, you know, you don't know how to deal with people. I totally get it. At the same time, you know, weed is definitely not going to help with that. It's definitely not going to help. Well, it didn't help me. I'll put it that way. Partly, like, you know, because there is like, oh, you know, the camaraderie of, oh, well, do you smoke? Yeah, I smoke. Yeah, I smoke too, kind of thing. Yeah, cool. Let's, you know, we can see it on the same, you know, you've got a common interest. But having a common, like, people used to say to me, oh, but smoking, you know, is a common interest between people. When they're on the job, they can both go for a smoker. It's not worth the cost. Like, you can have other common interests and, you know, have that same level of connection without having to put substance into your body. So I don't think that's a good rationalization for substance.
So even in this small room with a therapist, I was just like so high strung and guarded that I couldn't actually get to the root of anything. But I would take a hit, I would turn on my camera, and then I would just start talking. And when no more words came out, I just stopped. And then I'd watch it back and I'd edit it. And it felt like I finally had someone I could trust to talk to. I'd watch myself pouring my heart out to myself, saying all the things out loud that I didn't even actually know that I was thinking, because my thoughts were always racing so fast that I couldn't even grab a hold of them. I'd edit it, watch it back, and I would feel peace for a moment. Like a genuine therapy session. I was able to stop masking.
Yeah, okay. So she's sort of saying, hey, it sort of broke down the barriers of that mask, and we all kind of mask to a degree. I totally get where she's coming from, but sort of so a psychologist that I used to know, actually fascinating guy. He was like, his parents were refugees from Iran, so He was of Iranian descent, really cool guy. But he was sort of saying that, substance, especially alcohol, and this kind of, hey, my therapy is some kind of substance, it almost works. Like, it makes you feel calm, or you might be able to, sort of talk about things and let that mask down and feel calmer and do this stuff, but you always need more and more substance to do so. So in the end, like, it is detrimental to you, because in order to find that peace, you've got to keep it going. And that's the problem. Like, it never ends. You just need more and more and more and more and more in order to get back to that place. So, look, if you're doing it for a good time, hey, go nuts. If you're doing it, because you enjoy it, go nuts. If you're doing it because you need it for work, or you need it to be calm, you need it for to be psychologically stable, that can be a problem. But if you do think it is, see an expert. Don't listen to me. All I can do is give you anecdotes about my own life. See an expert. See somebody who is a psychologist, psychiatrist, somebody who deals with the effect of substance on the brain. Don't listen to me. But that's my opinion. If you have to, drink to go to work, that's a problem. If you have to smoke to go to work, that's a problem. Because work's something you're always going to do. And if you need something to keep doing it, when is your working life going to end? When you retire? That's a long time of taking substance in order to work. It's a problem.
I was able to see myself without a mask, and I started genuinely falling in love with myself in a radical self-acceptance way. At this point, I'm like addicted to this feeling. Every night I can't wait to get high, film, edit, and then things started getting even darker around me. So I started smoking earlier and earlier until eventually I'm starting at 11 a.m. and staying high the rest of the day with.
Okay, and this might be contentious. Hey, I'm just going to give my opinion, okay? It's going to be, some people might be mad. I don't care. I worry when people have, when people are on YouTube and people are doing social media, it is a job. It is the same as work. You're doing the things that you would do when you're doing work. It is the same thing, essentially. You're working. And anytime people are having, a very regular and very frequent, drunken stream where they get drunk and do something on the internet, I worry about them, because essentially you're getting drunk and doing work. And not only is, you're getting drunk and doing work, which may or may not be a good idea. I'm not one to judge. I don't really care if you're doing drunken streams for the fun of it. But it worries me that you need to get drunk to do this work, that it's a requirement. And that's what worries me. And now, look, I haven't said it before. This is the first time I've mentioned it. And hey, people can be totally okay. I will leave it up to them to decide. They're in charge of their own life. But it does concern me whenever somebody's work involves having substance. It worries me. Whether that is, the high podcast where you're getting stoned, or whether it's, drunken interviews with this person, it always worries me. And that worry might be completely unjustified. They might be totally fine. Not for my place to say. But, I know that sort of when you have a requirement to do something and then go out and work, it can be a problem. And I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it can be.
No days off. I would just smoke by myself and cry and dance and paint, and journal, and cry, and stretch, and cry, and work out, and cry, and make.
Yeah, so this is sort of when she went from more music into sort of vlogging. Like, before, she was just sort of thing. So whoever said that she was a logger, they're kind of right, kind of. But that's not where she started. And that wasn't where her career was going when this was happening. Her career was more, she was sort of almost got to doing a recording contract, doing actual, recording records, and not doing social media stuff or blogging or anything like it. So it sounds like she was sort of doing a lot of both.
Eggs and toast and cry. And then I started having heart issues. I would literally be sitting and my heart rate would jump to over 200 beats per minute. with no physical activity. Like I'm literally sitting on the couch. I even at one point was wearing a heart monitor. This looks like I'm like really suffering, and I'm literally not. I think that I just smoked too much weed. My skin was bad, my diet was bad, and frankly, I was weird. I was really weird. Like me, like baseline, I'm weird. Living in this alternate reality in my brain completely shut off from almost all social contact with nowhere to be and anybody to hold me accountable to doing anything. I was weird. So all that to say, things started.
Well, yeah, and so sort of what I found about Gabby online is she's been quite open about some mental illness problems, and hey, I respect that. I respect it. It doesn't degrade her at all in my eyes. In fact, people that do talk about mental health issues, their struggles with it and what they're going through, really, I admire people that can talk about that in a mature fashion. But she sort of has said that she's had OCD, ADHD, anxiety, and bipolar disorder, which bipolar disorder, it's it's previously been called manic depression. It's sort of been something that is a new term for a disorder that's been sort of known about for a while, but sort of manic depressive isn't really how they like it to be described, because it's a bit different. But I can certainly see that substance sort of could be a problem in that, because bipolar, part of it is psychosis. In sort of the manic episodes, psychosis can occur. I could certainly see that being a problem. And, you know, for her to sort of admit to it and say, hey, I was being weird, I know that that's a shorthand, but really I think she's saying, hey, my mental illness and my neurology wasn't helped by substance, which is rarely the case, to be honest with you. If you have some sort of neurological chemical imbalance in the brain, or even just some sort of neurological thing, substance rarely helps. I'm not saying it'll hinder, but it rarely helps. It can. But again, see a professional. And I really hope that she was. I really hope that she was. But she's sort of spoken very openly about her struggles with it. So I'm not sort of saying anything that she hasn't sort of put across.
Started off pretty innocently and spiraled. Weed transformed to this little thing I did to help me draw and paint and relax to being a crutch. Actually, crutch is such an understatement. It was just an absolute necessity for me. I'm recognizing this, and I battled myself for probably a year at least on whether or not I needed to quit. And it was the same cycle. I'd quit for a couple weeks, a few weeks even, a month, a couple months, and then I'd be like, you know what, let me see how it feels to just smoke again. And then I'd smoke and I'd be like, wow, this is so good for me. It's just about balance and moderation. This time I'd have boundaries. I can only smoke, this many times a week, and between this hour and this hour, and only this much. And then I'd smoke again, and wow, I'm like, I need both sober me and high me. We gotta yin and yang. Like, this is a team. We gotta work together. And then before you know it, you get the point. And all the while, this spiritual battle keeps popping up. And before you're
no, it's not. And this is where she goes off the rails. The spiritual battle. It's not a spiritual battle. It's not a spiritual battle. Okay, there's nothing spiritual, unless you're using spiritual as a metaphor for sort of emotional, mental, all of these things. It's not a spiritual battle. Okay, we know the effects of some chemicals on the brain. We know the effects of some chemicals. Like, it's not spiritual. It's not magic. Okay, we're aware of this. Chemicals can be very therapeutic. We use them all the time. We have medications. If your brain chemistry isn't exactly right, I know mine isn't, you may need drugs in order to balance what you're going through. But, self-medication is the most sort of reckless form of self drugging at all, like trying to self-medication. Like it is just a unsanctioned, unproven experiment on your brain chemistry trying to get it right. And hey, it may work for some people. I'm not saying that it doesn't. But what I'm saying is it's probably not a reasonable way, if you do have an imbalance in brain chemistry, of going about solving the problem. If you had a broken leg, for instance, and I know, like, doing physical comparisons to mental health or neurology is a really bad analogy. I get that. But if you had a broken leg, you wouldn't go, well, I'm just going to, try stuff on it and see what works. That isn't what you would do. You would see an expert. And the same is true for your brain. If you're having problems, don't just try random shit and hope for the best. See an expert. Even though you may stumble across something that works for you, you know, it may not be. So I think we've got to, you know, that's my opinion. You can disagree, not a problem.
Like, oh my gosh. A lot of people do look at weed as a spiritual tool. Like, especially if you're talking to like somebody who smokes a lot, especially if you're talking to somebody in California, they'll tell you that weed is a very spiritual experience. It really helps them connect. I'm going to do an entire separate video for any Christians or non-Christians about sort of these common arguments or justifications or questions surrounding whether or not you should.
Yeah, and I got to get into this at some point. I haven't done this one. Should Christians smoke weed? Right, so a lot of them are described as spiritual, but we know that it's not spiritual. Okay, there's nothing spiritual about smoking weed. I know that a lot of religions do have this idea of, well, it's spiritual, it's connected to the Great One, or, you know, you feel this way. Yeah, what you feel is not, like, is the chemicals working on your system. And we're aware of this. You know, it is something that we're aware of. And that's not to say that taking a substance and having a change of perspective, because really the main thing that people think it's spiritual is it changes your perception of the world, for good or for ill, right? Because sometimes changing your perception of the world can be very enlightening, right? I've had some LSD, and the perspective change that I got was very illuminating. You know, realizing that, hey, we're all on one planet, we're all this, all of these sort of leaps that your brain does, it can be very enlightening, can be very bad. You know, if you take some bad LSD, you can absolutely fry your brain. Like, don't get me wrong, it's dangerous sometimes, but, you know, it can be enlightening because of that change of perception. All right, that might be a contentious take. Don't care. I'm happy to disagree. But I don't think there's anything spiritual, but I don't think there's anything magical. I simply think it changes the way your brain thinks. That sometimes gives you a change of perspective. Sometimes I do not think that is, you know, the juice is not worth the squeeze when it comes to these substances. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. Right, I think it is a very mixed bag, but I don't see any reason to think that it's spiritual. Nothing magical happens. If you understand it, your perceptions can distort. You can see things that aren't there, but I don't see any reason why it's suddenly magical in some way. Now, if you're using spiritual as sort of a shorthand for, oh, this feeling, like the mystical experience, you know, the feeling that you're connected to everything, the feeling of love and things that you get, well, yeah, if you want to use that as shorthand for these series of emotions and perceptions that you trigger by putting chemicals into your brain, then yeah, it's spiritual if you're using spiritual like that. But most people are using spiritual as somehow mystical or somehow supernatural, and there's nothing supernatural about it. We understand the effects of these chemicals pretty well on most brains. Like, don't be fooled.
Smoke, basically. So make sure to check that video out if you're having any type of like internal debate, and it might give you some insight, it might not, but it's at least worth having a conversation and listening to somebody else talk about it. And then I get served this video on YouTube from somebody who was explaining why they quit weed. And it was this girl saying all the things that I was saying about how it helps her connect spiritually, but then she realized that those things were all lies and she decided to put it down. And then another video pops up and this person said, I've been
Yeah, I'm not sure about all lies. I think it's important to realize that any change of perception, it is your perception, but it's not lies so much. You know, you know, a lot of religious people will say, oh, I used to smoke weed, but realize that it's the devil, you know, doing this. And it's like, no, you're still in putting a distorted perception of the world. Like, it's not a lie, it's just the chemical changing your brain. And it's important to understand that it can do that. So yeah, I think that a lot of religious people will say, hey, I used to take weed because it's spiritual and now I don't because I know that it's the devil. And it's like, no, it's not either. It's not the devil, it's not God, it's not spiritual, it is just chemicals in your brain. That is it. That is all. And yeah, that can be really dangerous. It can be, you know, very, very exciting. It can be all kinds of things, but sort of blaming devils and demons is not helpful. They're still in that distorted perception of the world.
fighting myself over this for so long, and then I realized the fact that I'm having this internal battle is a testament that inside my spirit knows that this is not actually good for me and that it's keeping me from something. All of these people felt the same thing I did. Like, it's spiritual.
Your spirit knows. How do you access that spirit to know? Right? Like, how do you, if you're saying your spirit knows it's not good for you, how do you access that spirit? And this sort of reeks of that Jordan Peterson, well, maybe God's your conscience kind of thing. I don't know what to say to that. Like, I don't know how you access your spirit instead of, you know, your cognitive process or your intuition. Like, if you think that, hey, it's harming your life, you know, you don't have to check with a spirit for that. You just go, hey, it's harming my life. I see all of these outcomes I don't like.
It's medicinal, it's good for you, it's natural. And then I get served another video, and this is the one that really got me. I didn't even watch the video, I just looked at the thumbnail and immediately I was like, I'm quitting. It was a video of a guy who didn't smoke weed for 365 days, and on the left it said day 1, lazy and depressed, and on the right, day 365, and it said motivated and happy. And the word motivated is what struck me. For the last couple years, I felt like I had all these ideas and plans and daydreams. I was in this constant state of creation but could not execute. So that was,
yeah, that's my baseline level. Like, that's me baseline. So I feel like I have all these ideas and I want to do projects and all of that stuff. You know, I do have ADHD, so I am trying to find a good medication to get me motivated enough. Look, the really weird thing with my experience of ADHD has been the jobs in which I have worked at. People would say I am the hardest worker they've ever met. You know, like, I would always be nose to the grindstone doing my work. When I've got a plan in front of me, I just go. Like, I'm very hard worker. It's that what do I do now kind of thing that really, you know, the procrastination, the starting it in the first place. Once I get started, I'm good. Or if there is a steady stream of things to do, that's why I was so good at IT support, because you just got a stream of problems coming in, right? Like, these problems are just coming in, you're solving, and they never stop. So neither did I. You know, like, if I'm talking to someone online and going through, I can do it for hours and hours and hours and hours on end, as long as it's just coming in. It's starting my own thing that's the problem for me. And I hope to really try to get a handle on that. And, you know, I'm still learning. I'm better at it than I used to be, but it's still difficult for me. So these are the challenges that we're trying to meet, or I'm trying to meet. I don't know why I said we just then. But you know, that's part of it, and that's my, you know, not being able to figure out how to start. That is my baseline experience for my normal everyday. And put me in a debate though, and I am good. I am fantastic. You know, questions come at me. The other day, actually, I forgot to mention this in my member stream, but I'll share it with you. The other day, I was talking to, in the debate, I was talking to a morality debate. I don't know if you saw it. If not, go and give it a watch. It was actually very respectful, very cool. It was me versus objective ethics on whether morality is objective and subjective. I don't know if that interests you. It was interesting to me. I think that, you know, he sort of said, hey, you know, I know people have been cheating in debates. And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, I'm like, I don't even understand how someone would cheat in a debate. Like, do they have people talking to them? Because I've had debates, and yeah, tangents in the chat. Thanks, people. Tangents in the chat. And I've been talking to people, and I've thought, have you got people telling you answers? Because, like, you know, talking to people, you know, they can't seem to explain their own answer. And to me, that's weird. And I'm like, did your friend give you that answer or something and you're just repeating it? But he sort of said, hey, this person was busted for using AI, like ChatGPT, in a debate. And I'm sort of like, really? Like, someone would do that? I don't, you know, apparently they showed, you know, they shared their screen, shared the wrong tab, and there's ChatGPT with all of the responses in there. And I went, I was surprised. I was like, well, ChatGPT isn't that good at providing responses, number one. Number two, you know, I don't think you could have a good, you know, debate response with ChatGPT. I don't know. It's kind of, I don't see it as cheating. I see it as handicapping yourself. I really do, because you're not going to understand completely the answers that it gives. So you're entirely reliant on this thing giving a cogent answer, and I don't think that's a good idea, because a lot of the time ChatGPT will give an answer that seems logical and reasonable, and then you follow it up and it quickly becomes apparent that it contradicts itself. You know, like you ask to explain itself and it will just contradict itself, and see no problem in doing that. So I don't know if that's cheating or hamstringing yourself. Like that time he called Flats, was that Flatzoid, with a whole Discord of people in his ear during a live debate? Yeah, I don't know, Ember. I think I heard about that now that you come to mention it. I honestly think that that would hinder me. That would hinder me, because I wouldn't know who to listen to. It would be, you know, because I sort of, with my autism, I sometimes have sensory over. It would be too much to follow. I'd be telling people to shut the fuck up, quite frankly. You know, I'd be saying, hey, just don't all talk. Just shut up, everybody. I want to do this myself. Maybe that's just me. But no, I get why they're saying cheating. I don't think it's going to help people that as much as they think it would, personally. But yeah, weird, hey? Yeah.
The moment, every argument that I had just melted. So I quit, but this time I set myself a timer. 1 year. No more like, oh, let me just like go a few weeks just to prove I can. No, 1 year. And here's the result. So weed actually changes your brain chemistry.
Okay, so the problem with setting a timer, like, oh, I'm going to do 2 weeks without having it, or 1 year. And hey, it does work for some people. I won't, you know, they'll say, hey, only once every week or something. I'm not talking about that, but sort of like, well, I'm going to quit for 1 year. It's after that year, you've still got the same psychological kind of addiction that you had in the first place. So you're sort of tempting fate trying to go back. I think that quitting something, you've got to go, well, I'm quitting. The only way I could quit cigarettes was say, this is the very last one that I will have ever in my life. I am done forever. That is the only way I could do it. So, you know, take that for what it is, anecdotal myself, but I found that sort of saying, hey, I'm not going to do X for period, I would go back to it. And that's sort of, so I smoked for a long time, quit for like 3 years or something. Like I literally like said, I'm going to go without for a year, managed 3 years, and then I started again. I realized, no, this has got to be for the rest of my life. Like I've got to just go, nope, I'm done. I'm done forever. And that worked for me. I don't know if that's something to consider or not.
It does have physiological, psychological effects on your brain. I needed to reset my
considering how Flats performed, I don't think it helped him either. Yeah, I struggle to find how that would help me. I really do.
Brain, rewire my brain. And within a few weeks, I did notice changes already, but that's the point where normally I would start smoking again, because I'd be like, oh, I feel a lot better. Like I can smoke again, but I didn't. And each week got clearer. Hey, I'm in the middle of filming. I'm leaving for LA tonight.
Okay, I don't know why she included this when she's got edit cuts all through. I'm not 100% sure.
I still had anxiety, and thus I was smoking more weed. Actually went away, shockingly. Depression lifted too, and most importantly,
Yeah, so that's not necessarily the case. And it can be misleading, because if you do have anxiety, if you do have depression, in my opinion, you know, you can sort of blame the weed for it, but it might not be the weed. They may be underlying problems that you're exacerbating with the weed, but they haven't completely gone away. So that's why you need professional help. I really hope she did get professional help, which I think she did, because don't forget, a while after she made this, she's apologizing to everybody. But that, I do want to talk about that, and talk about something else as well.
I just feel peace. I'm not dependent on anything except the Lord our God. Amen. I stepped away from...
Right. And here's where we come to the problem. And the problem, generally speaking, is known as transference. right? And what's transference? It's basically, well, I want to quit cigarettes. I'm just going to drink instead, right? Like it's basically transferring your, I mean, it's not exactly transference, but it's sort of that substituting one addiction for another. And we see it all the time with religion. Now, I have no doubt getting on the God bus and believing in God and having this sort of, oh, well, I'm addicted to Jesus now, is better than being addicted to some other stuff. Like if you're on heroin and you replace it with Jesus, look, that's probably a good thing, okay? It probably is good. But it is still replacing it with something that can be harmful, right? I'm not saying that religious belief is automatically harmful, but it can be. And that's a problem, right? And it's a problem for her, and I will explain why.
Social media at the same time, which is actually my real addiction. Weed, not so much. Wasn't really an addiction. Social media, real addiction. And we'll talk about it. But yeah, I stopped wasting a lot of time on there and also...
Okay, I am not addicted to social media. I know, because I rarely go on to, like, I don't even have a Facebook. I find it exhausts me. And so I really do not do, and that sort of has made it tough for my YouTube career. Like a YouTuber without social media is like, oh, you know, a cat without whiskers. It's kind of staggering around, not knowing what it's doing. But hey, I'm fine in that position. I seem to be doing okay. So hey, here I am. Whiskerless cat is me. Great. But, you know, is it sublimination? I think it could be. I'm struggling to remember the term from it. I'm struggling to remember the term. Sublimation? Sublimation? Yes, it's a defense mechanism where unacceptable impulses are unconsciously transformed into productive, socially acceptable, or creative actions. You know, and it can be fine. It can be fine, right? Like if you have certain things that you're doing, you want to be healthier, for instance. Yeah, it can be. But I'm not sure religion is the horse you want to bet on, because it can lead to really bad outcomes. You know, scrupulosity for one, like doing OCD things. Don't forget she has OCD, right? And so scrupulosity is the performing of OCD-like rituals whenever you feel you have sinned against your religion or transgressed in your religion in some way. So people that, like, you know, do the rosary or whatever in Catholicism, they will make a mistake or do something very ordinary, you know, like you know, say something bad about somebody, and then feel compelled to carry out this rosary ritual in order to be absolved, even if that disrupts their life, even if it has this negative impact on them. And it's a problem. Scrupulosity is a problem. Religious trauma syndrome is also a problem, where people are actually traumatized by their religion. And I feel worried about Gabby here, because, you know, a lot of signs that she isn't coping with religion well, or at least it may be another mask, perhaps. I don't know her, so I'm not going to categorically say, but there's some signs that I do not like.
So in a lot of other ways. And I'm happy and motivated. It's like I'm the me that I was before I had to tuck her away and hide her from the world. My experience, it was actually pretty easy. I think setting that firm deadline, in fact, no, actually I'm gonna say I know that setting that firm deadline is what really got me there. I'm a very goal-oriented person and very competitive with myself. So when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So once it was off the table as an option for something for me to do, I just didn't really even think about it as much. And that's not to say there weren't challenges at first, especially. There is that physical and psychological withdrawal, anxiety being one of the main ones.
Yeah, and
but
that's
those withdrawals go away relatively.
That's what I was talking about, the psychological and physical addiction. They're two different things. Something can have no... the physical addiction is called neuroadaptation. It's your brain actually changing to expect that that receptor physically wants the drug, so it keeps pinging your brain for it. And psychologically is obviously behavioral, you know. So the two components, like, I believe that cocaine has no neuroadaptation. It's got no addictive quality inherently, but like psychologically, just habit, people do get addicted to it. So There's others like opioids, for instance, are incredibly dangerous because not only has it got a very, very, very high neuroadaptation. The brain absolutely wants it and will absolutely have a tough time without it. It's horrible. But also that feeling of relief that people get when they try it is incredibly, like, psychologically addicting as well. So that's why opioids are so dangerous, because they have both things to a very, very high degree. Whereas something like cigarettes, the neuroadaptation is very high. Like the receptors really want that nicotine, but psychologically it's not as bad. Whereas weed doesn't really have a high amount of physical addiction, but it may have behavioral.
Quickly, not the physical anxiety that you're feeling from the drug literally like leaving your body, but when the stress gets hard, like those moments when you'd normally go.
Yeah. And sort of one of the things that one of the rationalizations that I had to challenge when I quit cigarettes, quit nicotine, was that cigarettes helped me relax, right? I'd feel stressed, they would help me relax. What you've got to understand is that anxiety that was being provoked was not having the cigarette in the first place, not having the substance in the first place. So that sort of, I'm getting stressed. You can recognize that if you actually sort of sit down with a professional and talk about it and go through it, is actually the stress of not having the substance. So you're sort of using the substance to fix a problem that is caused by the substance, which is, wild to recognize. That smoking doesn't actually calm you down. All it does is alleviate the symptom that it caused in the first place. Pretty wild, right? Anyway, I'm going to call it here. Like, I'm going to stop this video here. I'm going to go on to the next one because she's sort of going over stuff. But yeah, I think that, her going sober, fantastic if that's good for her. Her finding Jesus and all she is addicted to Jesus now. Okay, that's some red flag a bit there. Her apology video, right? This apology video seemed to come at a timeline where she would have been doing AA or NA, right? Like, so Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, or, I believe that Narcotics Anonymous does allow people using weed in there because weed can be addictive. It can be addictive. Some people do need help to quit it. Totally fine with it. Totally fine. And her social media addiction that she says, okay, she may have needed help. One of the problems with these programs, and I'm very critical of them, mostly because of their outcomes, is that what they promote is a surrender of autonomy, right? It basically will say just trust in God. Less so in Australia. I've heard more so in America, and I've seen sort of some of the things that they say, that you just have to trust in God and surrender your will to God, basically. And my problem with it is all you're doing is replacing an addiction with religion as the addiction. You're not actually sort of taking control of your own life because you have to surrender control. You have to say, hey, I'm an addict. I'll never get better. It's all up to God. I'm surrendering my life into God's hands. And that's not the way that we, or that secular addiction treatment works. Okay, you'd never go, well, it's out of my control, I'm not responsible for it. You have to be responsible for your own actions. You have to make the changes yourself. Nobody can cure your addiction. Only you can. And it's a big deal in secular treatments because you have to be empowered, while AA and NA specifically depowers people to just trust in God. And believe in Jesus and just, do for Jesus. And it is not, in my opinion, it isn't good. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I am aware that secular therapies get better results. And I have gone through secular therapies. They've been very effective. That's not to say that NA or AA can't be effective for people, right? They definitely can. But inserting a religion into that in order to promote it it's a problem, especially when it's you've got no autonomy, you've got no power, you've just got to give it up to the Jesus or the God and let them save you kind of thing. I think that is a problem because you always have power over yourself. You can always make the choice. And I think that empowerment's very, very, very important. It's very important. Be wary of the auto response that, for me, even 13 years on, still hits me by surprise once in a while. Yeah, I get you. The sort of cravings and things. Surprise the hell out of me that still happens occasionally. Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. And it's really weird, being addicted to any substance. Very, very strange. I mean, I smoked for a while. I managed to quit. My wife helped me in that. She's fantastic. She's awesome. Best person on the world from my opinion. But it's really weird. I had a dream once that I was smoking, and I literally woke up feeling guilty and couldn't shake it for a while. I was guilty for like just wild stuff. Your brain, like, what is the brain doing, and what the hell? What the hell? But I'll move on from that, and I'm sort of saying, hey, she's sort of got this God response, which it doesn't make me that happy. Now, this is sort of something that she's done recently. I believe this was 1 week ago kind of thing. Like, so she's actually come back as of this point, having been off any social media for years, okay? For years. She's come back. And it's not sound on.
I've gotten that question a lot from some people in real life, like on my Patreon. Free to view, by the way. Free open chat for everybody. But people be like, okay, like, what do you think about it? G is coming back, whatever. Have you tried it? Do you have the beta? And I've just now decided how I feel about it. I feel like TikTok is Vine now. It just has developed so much. It's changed so much. And I think that Vine will be a really amazing nostalgia thing. I was able to view some stuff on like the Divine beta website. I think I just like Googled Divine. I forget how I found it, but.
So apparently Vine is trying to make a comeback, like sort of, reinvent themselves, come back, be more modern, and sort of get a share of the market again. I have doubts that it'll work. I think that Vine sort of started up when that format did not exist. I think that TikTok is oversaturated now. I think that YouTube Shorts has a slice of the market. I think that I'm not sure that Vine will be the success it was when it was just Vine, when people have options. I'm not sure, though. I could not say.
A lot of the humor does not hold up. A lot of the humor does not... Listen, there was like so many good hits. Like big top creators had big hits. So like that's what you remember when you think about those creators. But when you're posting every day like that, like there's a lot of misses. And it got to a point where all of the top comedy page was... It wasn't about the best content of the day. It was about Revine for Revine, collaboration. You guys were there, you saw it, right? So when it comes to bringing back Vine, I think the thing that people loved so much about Vine was that it was the first app that was real and quick and immediate. That's why it served such a, important, pioneering role in social media at all. Like that quick, it's in the palm of your hand. You don't need a camera. You don't need a laptop. You don't even, dude, it was literally just, you press the screen. You didn't even have to press a record button. It was, you pressed the screen and it was like, oh, I just filmed something. I just recorded something. And because it was so quick, the novelty of Vine was that it didn't even necessarily have to be like funny or clever or particularly talented. It was just about what did you fit into 6 seconds. Now those 6-second artists, a lot of them were actually talented creators, comedians.
Yeah, I couldn't do much in 6 seconds. It's kind of weird. I don't think I could do much in 6 seconds, to be honest with you. I think that I'm a slow roll. I'm a slow roll.
They wanted to have amazing careers. I consider myself one of them. Like I actually do believe I blew up on Vine, but it's just because I was supposed to. Like that's just what it is. Like I can't explain it either. Some people are just given a gift. Some people are given the responsibility of influence, and that was given to me. So anyways, it was a crazy ecosystem. I'm sure I'll tell you guys literally all about it. Like I'm gonna tell you the tea, bro. Like what was it like? Why did Vine actually end? Like there's people with these answers. I know everything, like everything. I was there from the beginning to the end. I pioneered a lot of social media influencing today, and I'm not proud of it. Like, I'm not proud of it. I wish I could be like, I shifted culture in a meaningful way, but I'm like, I shifted culture in a meaningful way.
Yeah. Okay. So I think she's coming back sort of realizing, hey, I did a lot of influencing that sort of was low-key terrible. Low-key terrible. So I don't know. I don't feel myself I've got enough of sort of a position to sort of comment on what influencers were like and what they weren't. But um, she's sort of trying to get back into the sphere, and it's sort of her actual what she's after. It does shift here, and watch the shift.
This is so shameful. This is hard. It's hard to reconcile with because when I look out and I see the harm that I've caused, that's why I just start screaming from the rooftops, dude. None of this matters. Like, there are babies dying in the street.
There are babies dying in the street. Look, I totally get, hey, there's the infant mortality in America is definitely high. I'm not sure which streets she is talking about. I don't think there's babies dying in my street. I haven't checked lately, but I feel confident that the government and police would have something to say if that was happening. Is she talking about abortion? Unclear. Is she talking about the denying SNAP benefits to families? Unclear. We don't know. It seems kind of very random. This is Gabby Hanna. She used to be huge on Vine, over 5 million subs on YouTube, and she's big on TikTok as well. I can't remember how much she was, how big she was on TikTok, but she's got like 5 million on YouTube, which is kind of weird. Hang on, let me check. She's got on TikTok. I don't know. I don't know TikTok very well, so I have no idea. But yeah, she's quite large.
Still, worse than ever. Worse than ever. On social media, we see it with our eyes. But I'm the crazy one. I'm the crazy one. Listen, guys, give me another.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know what babies dying on the street means. Look, there's a lot of problems, right? There's shooting violence, maybe? I don't know. I don't know. That's the thing. She doesn't really explain what she's talking about. She just says there are babies dying on the street. And if it was children, I'd expect you to say children, right? Like if it is sort of school violence, for instance, you know, the violence we see in American schools, you would expect her to say children, but no, it's babies. So I don't know what she's talking about.
Chance. Help me help us. Help me help us. I'm going to do the right thing. Make the right one famous. And if not, help me uplift the people I'm talking about, for real. That's unreal. If you're just a passerby, I'm faded into oblivion or just like a little archive in internet lore, I accept it. You know what I mean? It's not ideal, but like I'm so blessed. Like it led me here. But
I always get suspicious when I hear that. I'm so blessed. You know, like it's just, I don't know. It's just like it always is going to follow by like, I owe everything to Jesus. I'm nothing. It's all Jesus kind of thing. And it always makes me cringe a little. I don't, you know, cringe just a little. You know, I'm so blessed. Yeah. Or you were in the right place at the right time, or worked hard, or, you know, did a whole bunch of content. I don't know. But I don't think the blessings of Jesus had anything to do with it. Because there's plenty of people that should be blessed that aren't blessed. So, you know, problem of evil again.
if you don't make me famous again, because it's all up to you. This is, by the way, how the election should go. And it will. Robbie Kroner for president, 2020 or 2030 or 2040, whatever. I'm telling you, that man is the president of the United States of America. If you, the people.
Okay, so Robbie Kroner, so after she left her influencer, so it seemed like she did videos on having too much substance, having an addiction, then she did maybe an NA or an AA thing, so she's apologizing to everybody, which is one of the steps of AA. She then comes back and is overtly Christian and married to a Robbie Kroner, I believe it is. Robbie Kroner, something like that. Robbie Kroner, who I hadn't heard of before. But then again, I hadn't heard of her before. I had to find this out through my wife. So I don't know who he is. But he's sort of another sort of semi-celebrity kind of thing. And so she's basically going, oh, my husband for president. You know, no political background, really. I don't know his political background. You know, I have no idea. I have no idea. It's very, very weird. It's very weird.
choose to put us there. I want to be the first lady so bad, y'all. I just like got hooked onto this vision of being the first lady. Because at first I was like, oh, I'm going to be the president. I have to. Nobody else cares. Nobody else is willing to humiliate themselves to bring attention to the babies dying in the street. I have to do it. I have to be the president.
Again, I don't know what babies are dying in the street. I don't know. It's so weird that she's like, I have to be first lady to stop babies dying in the street when she's not explaining what, like, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. What is she talking about? And this is what I mean. Like, she's just switched from sort of making some sort of, hey, this is what was happening with Vine. And she's completely transited to make me famous again because I'll stop the babies dying in the street. And elect my husband president because reasons?
I have to, through God's grace, become president. And then God humbled me.
I have, through God's grace, have to become president.
The president humbled me and he was just like, you, president, in control of warfare. Actually, I would be dangerous if I got reins of the United States of America, in that I can't believe I almost said something accidentally. I would make America great again.
Yeah.
Robbie Croner, 20.
Yes, because you talked to God and God was like, you think you could be president. So don't forget, this woman is actually thinking that she's talking to God. Okay, she's thinking she's getting responses from her deity. Not that she's praying to him, not that she's getting feelings, that she is getting actual responses. And Robbie Croner is her husband. So she's saying, make me first lady so I can stop babies dying in the street. But what babies?
Whatever, 30, 40, 50, whatever, I don't know what it is. Make America great for the first time ever. You know, Betsy Ross made the American flag. That's who I want to be. I want to be Eliza, the orphanage, Eliza.
Okay, so she's singing Hamilton at the moment. I'm not sure if we'll get copyright struck for this because,
She was like the silent hero the whole time.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Look, Ember. Like, I get what you're saying. The current person in the White House is absolutely. She says she's dangerous. He is way dangerous. I totally get what you're saying. I think if by the requirements for being president is being a unsettled a person with ignorant about politics, yeah, she definitely makes it. But she doesn't even know when this election is. It's kind of wild.
And she dedicated her life to, I want to be Eliza. I don't want to be, who she married? Hamilton. He wasn't even president. Do you see what I'm saying? But my man's going to be the president.
Okay. I don't even know where to go for this. Hamilton was an incredible figure who did so much at the dawn of the country to help the country. Like, he did so much, and she's like, yeah, but he wasn't even president. This is weird to me. You know, we're all looking to, or most of us are looking, or nearly all of us are looking to make a difference in some way, help out society, really contribute. But there's some people that are like, well, I've got to be at the top, and if I'm not at the top, nothing matters. That is not true. That is not true. A company isn't run by everybody being the CEO. That is not what happens. This is weird. This is very weird.
My man is going to be the president. And if you can't see your man being the president of the United States of America with sincerity, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Last I checked, you don't even have a man. Hey. Okay, I have to say it. We have to just ignore Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I mean it.
Okay, so this is weird. This is so weird. She went from what's up with Vine to, if your man isn't president, then what are you doing? You don't even have a man. To Gypsy Rose Blanchard, who I believe was the woman that killed her mother after her mother kept her at home for being sick, and she she was sort of making the rounds, sort of saying, hey, I felt like I needed to do it to escape. And there was a discussion about whether it is moral or not, because there were other ways she could have gone out. Yeah, there's other things she could have done to get out of that situation than murder her mother. But Gypsy Rose Blanchard is so left field. Like, this is so off the cuff, random stuff. I mean, I thought I tangented. No, I'm a gross amateur. Apparently, this is wild.
I mean it. I'm not Gypsy Rose. If you're watching, I'm not judging you. Wasn't there. Period. There's a lot going on. Okay, you're not this or you're not this. You're somewhere in the middle. Okay, you did your time. However, you should not be in the public eye, babe. We cannot idolize. She murdered her mother, but it's okay because da 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 da. We can't normalize. Wait, but she's kind of funny though. Slay mother. No.
No, there's definitely moral ambiguity there. Like, her mother was sort of doing a Munchausen by proxy. If you're unaware of what that is, it's sort of when you keep a someone you're responsible for sick in order to get feelings of validation, when you're basically saying, oh, well, honey, you're sick, you've got to stay in bed, and there's nothing wrong with them. So Munchausen syndrome is where you're basically pretending to be sick in order to get attention and sort of validation. Munchausen by proxy is when you're sort of convincing somebody else they're sick in order for the same thing, basically sympathy, notoriety, validation for your what you're doing, kind of thing. It's very complex, but apparently Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mother was doing Munchausen by proxy. She was basically telling her she couldn't walk, she's sick, she can't go out of the house, in order for that validation. And Gypsy Rose says that the only way out she could see at the time was to get her boyfriend and her to end the life of her mother. Now, she admits, hey, I now know that wasn't the way to go about it, and said, hey, I'm fine with doing my time in jail for it. I'm fine with that, etc., etc. It wasn't the right thing to do. But it's the only thing I could see at the time. And I kind of get where she's coming from. However, I think that there should be a punishment for doing that. So I get where she's coming from. But it's such a change. Like, no one's saying, hey, it's fine to do that. What we want to do is raise awareness for people in that situation that there is help for them available. Like, they don't need to do that in order to get out of the situation.
This is grotesque. We're being desensitized. We have to get back in touch with reality. We need to wake the up.
Yeah, so getting back in touch with reality, I'm not sure if she's making a convincing argument that she's doing that. And so I will jump now to, and this is a while ago. This was sort of 6 weeks ago, kind of thing. I'll jump to a problem that I see. This is October 17th, and she only uploaded this very recently, but it was from October 17th.
Good morning, world. Reporting live from the Atlanta airport at 5 a.m. We're on our layover for our red eye from Los Angeles, California, to Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
And notice she's not holding the phone herself, so I presume this is her husband holding the phone, the future president of the United States, because her man's going to be president in she doesn't know what year, but apparently so.
And I thought this would be a really good time to tell you about how I overcame my fear of flying, because I know that this is something that a lot of people deal with. And as an ex-influencer, I used to fly all the time. I'm talking like sometimes I was flying every week. Like, there was very rarely a month where I wasn't on a flight. So you can imagine, as somebody who had like a crippling fear of flying, that was a big challenge.
And I'm sure she will be recommending going to therapy, getting some tools in order to have some healthy coping strategies with the stress and anxiety. No, of course not. Of course. What are you talking about? Of course not. Of course not. And notice how she's now, I don't know if I can do this, but she's got the cross earrings predominantly displayed now. These cross earrings. I can't highlight them. My program's not working. It's all gone. It's all gone downhill. It's all gone downhill. But yeah, she's got like the stuff predominantly displayed now. It's all
flying
out in the open.
What I realized was my fear of flying, internally, deeply on my heart, what it actually was, it was a fear of death. And beyond that, it was a fear of not making it into heaven, because I knew that I wasn't right with God. I knew I wasn't living a life that God would be proud of. So when I finally was ready to sit with that, I realized, okay, well, death is inevitable. I am going to die. We are all going to die. And this isn't something that I can just keep putting off, because
okay, so a fear of death is perfectly reasonable. Having a fear of death is totally understandable. I think that we all inherently have this thing, this impulse not to end. I think that when that is unreasonably affecting your life, then that would be a phobia, and it's time to, or a phobia of something, and it's time to see somebody, see a psychiatrist, see a psychologist. They've got some therapies. Cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance commitment therapy. There's a lot of them around that can really help with that. But sort of being afraid that you're going to go to hell is one of the problems that I was pointing out, religious trauma syndrome, because this fear of hell can actually cause trauma exactly the same as being threatened by a gun or having a close call with death kind of thing. It can be traumatic when you think, and we saw earlier that she was going, I've done horrible things. I've got to apologize for all of them. I'm apologizing. When you think that that's going to get you a place in hell, that can actually be traumatic to a lot of people, and that can ride with them for a vast majority of their life. I really don't want to understate this. What is causing her fear isn't necessarily the dying, it's dying and going to hell. And this is the flip side to when the Christians say, hey, Christians believe in heaven, so we don't worry about death as much, etc., etc. Yeah, but you also have hell, right? You've got to acknowledge the flip side.
You can't play with God like that. Like, we all have a timer. We all have to leave this earth. And there's always that thought, oh, well, tomorrow, like today's not the day I'm going to worry about my eternal soul. Today's not the day I'm going to try to get on the right path. Today's not the day I'm going to start living with purpose, living for God. Like, I'm going to have more time for that. Like, let me just live my life. And then later on, I'll worry about religion. Later on, I'll worry about faith. Like, I'll definitely figure it out before then. I couldn't live like that anymore and realize all the things that I was ashamed of, all the things that.
Yeah, so can you imagine? She's basically, when she's saying, hey, I'll figure it out later on, she's basically pushing down these feelings of fear regarding a hell for no reason. Like, there's no reason to believe that hell is actually real. There's no reason to believe that. There's absolutely no reason to. And she is coping with feelings of fear of something that I have never once in my life worried about. Not once. I have never had a single worry that I'm going to be tortured for eternity. Not since when I was born, from today. My entire life, I have never once had that concern. And I just want to sort of, I really want to sort of say to Christians, imagine if you never have that fear at all of hell. Like, you never for one moment have considered whether it's where you're going to end up. It's just a non-issue. Like, could you imagine a life without that fear? And, a lot of them wouldn't be able to, but, that's where I'm coming from. I was never taught any kind of religion growing up. I was never taught any kind of afterlife growing up. And so I'm just like, yeah, it has never concerned me in the slightest. Like, it's never worried me, never been afraid of it, never suspected it, never had any concern whatsoever. So, and you might go as a Christian, yeah, but you've never had the comfort of going to heaven. Sure, but you've got to acknowledge the flip side. With religion and heaven comes a fear of hell. And this poor woman, for years, has a fear of this thing for no reason whatsoever, or no rational reason that I can make out, because, nobody has ever confirmed the existence of hell. It is a religious belief. It's kind of weird to me.
would have kept me out of heaven, I had to talk to God about that because he already knew about that. I couldn't.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point. That's a really good point. I want to talk about that quickly. Yes, it's supposed to make you into a good person that God will save, but generally it doesn't. What it does is make people into repentant people, people that will do bad things and then ask God for forgiveness afterwards. And generally they will do all kinds of things. Like, it doesn't seem to stop anybody. What happens is that they'll just ask for forgiveness afterwards. So I don't think, considering the amount of Christians that are currently incarcerated compared to the number of atheists, I don't think it actually encourages people to be a good person. I think it encourages people to be repentant people, people that are sorry for what they've done wrong, but not actually think about why it is wrong that they've done it and the consequences of doing it. Because everything in this life is temporary. It's the next one you've got to worry about. And that kind of attitude means that you're not going to change your behavior in this life, or you may not change your behavior in this life, because there is always that parachute, right? There's always well, I'm just going to ask God for forgiveness and I'll be fine.
Hide from God. So once I confronted God with that, I faced God with that, acknowledged that God already knew that, like he saw me in all of those moments that you hope nobody sees you in, you know what I mean? The moments where you don't have integrity, the moments where you're out for selfish gain, the moments where you're not honest, the moments where you're greedy or prideful.
Oh, look, everybody has those moments where you're like, hey, I should have had more integrity. I should have been more honest. You feel bad about it, but sort of, saying, hey, well, the God saw it and I'm apologizing to God. No, try apologizing to the people. I mean, she was doing that earlier in the video. I don't see why she doesn't do it, now. It's just like, what extra does God forgiving you get you in this life? I mean, I get if you believe in the next life, sure, but you're living your life in fear of hell that he's not going to accept.
I realized he saw me in all of those moments, and he still loves me, and he forgives me, and he gave me the power to forgive everybody else and to let go all of the anger, hurt, and hate that I was holding on to. He gave me permission and ability and grace to be able to forgive others as well. So
how do you know that? So I'm going to point to a certain verse, the one in Exodus, where they worship the golden calf and things, and people are very sorry afterwards. They're like, oh, we had chose this idol and we shouldn't have been worshiping the idol. Do you know what happens afterwards? The Levites, the priest class of the Canaanites, they go through the entire camp slaughtering everybody. Right? Like, the whole idea is God is forgiving only comes in at the New Testament. So how do you know that he's going to forgive you?
Now I'm not afraid of death. And so I'm not afraid of flying because I have full confidence that when I die, that I'm going to be with Jesus. I'm going to be in heaven with my Savior, because that's his promise, that if you look to him, if you believe in him, if you put your faith in him, if you follow him, if you love him, if you obey his commands to love God first and to love everybody as yourself, then you have nothing to fear. I trust that God is going to protect me in this life, and I do trust God to give me a safe landing. But if for some reason...
Yeah, I don't think God has got much to do with a safe landing. Like, I really don't think so. I think a lot of things go into a safe landing, but God is not one of them. God does not seem to protect anybody against air crashes, but, air traffic controllers seem to have a lot of influence over it. So out of God and an air traffic controller, I'm giving most of the credit to the air traffic controller and pilot and co-pilot and, all of the engineers that do their work on the aircraft. If it's God that's doing it, then why do we pay people to maintain aircraft? It's because they're the ones that are actually deciding whether the plane stays up or not. The people that know what they're doing, not a God.
God chose this moment to take me because he had a different purpose. Ultimately, like, earth is a gift, but compared to heaven, like, this is a prison sentence, low-key. Like, like, we are low-key trapped here. Grateful to be here. Love it. Love earth, God. Thank you so much. Earth is so good. Love life. Thank you, God. But compared to heaven, like, I'm not scared to die anymore because I'll be in heaven. So, like, yeah, there's, the element of, will it hurt? Like, what's it like? There's that little element of the unknown, but the element of the known, which is Jesus, which is God, which is heaven, which is eternal life in paradise forever, like literally bliss vacation forever.
Yeah, I don't think you can have forever bliss. I think that sort of, being in a state of bliss forever would absolutely, it would devalue it to a point where it's just ordinary. And I think that happiness is sort of fleeting. It's a fleeting emotion. We have bursts of it, and it's good to enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, but forever, I don't. I think without having some sort of baseline emotion, it would just become nonsensical. It would just become ordinary, and I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of just weird. And sort of saying, oh, about the known is Jesus. And it's like, yeah, that's not kind of known. Like, I get you believe it, but how do you know Jesus is coming back? How do you know that? What is your rationale for that? Because a book says so is not a good rationale. It's not. Especially when it's been that long and Jesus was talking about, him returning before some of the people in front of him have tasted death. He was talking about returning in some of the observers' lifetimes. And, 2,000 years later, he's still not around. So I have great doubts that Jesus is known.
What is there to be afraid of? So I hope that this can encourage and inspire anybody who might have a fear of flying to just remember that God has you. And next time you get on a plane, just say a prayer. Just say, thank you, God, for this life, for this day, for this...
No! Thank the pilot, thank the staff, thank the engineers, thank the co-pilot, thank the people that maintain the plane, thank the air traffic controller. But God doesn't seem to have a lot to do with it, or else you wouldn't need air traffic controllers.
Miracle of flying. This is crazy. I trust you to get me on the ground safely. And if for whatever reason that's not your plan for me, because all things work together for the good of those who love you, then see you soon, big guy. See you in the sky, brother. Like, wait. Auntie Anne's is opening up soon, so my man and I are gonna go get some cinnamon sugar pretzel bites with nacho cheese. You know what I'm saying? Deuces.
Yeah, so she's sort of reinventing herself as sort of a Christian online vlogger kind of thing, and it's just sort of the whole idea of thank God for the plane not crashing. We have a lot of things that go into planes not crashing. And God does not seem to be one of them. If it was the case that your specific God keeps planes aloft, we'd be able to study that. Hey, let's bless planes by this priest and not this priest, and we'd find out which one actually works. Guess what? It's all the same. No one's blessing gets the plane up higher. Nobody gets it. But what does is the actual things that we know about, like the pilot, the maintenance, air traffic controllers, the condition of runways, the weather events, things like this. We know what causes planes to remain aloft and not aloft. Now, as an atheist, I don't have to go, oh, but God will save me, so I don't have to be afraid of flying. I'm not afraid of flying. And I know that I could die. There is a reasonable level, low chance, a probability that I could die when I fly. That is a possibility. It's very, very low. I probably am safer on that plane than I am driving in my own car, right? Like, there is a possibility that you can die in a car crash. And it's not a zero possibility. But we can't live our lives as if these things are going to happen. When you actually get rational about it, yes, everybody dies, but number one, you don't have any control over that. You do not have control over it. What we do have control over is the things that we know affect it. The pilot, so if there's drunk pilots, we get rid of them. The air traffic controllers, the maintenance on the plane, the condition of the run. These are the things we have control over. Freak accidents, we don't, right? So it is a case of going, well, even if I do die, I'm not going to know about it because I won't know anything, right? And I don't want to, suffer as I go out. I don't want to have that suffering. I don't want to suffer. But at the same time, death itself doesn't really worry me. I love living. I don't want to stop living. But at the same time, some of these things I don't have control over, and like she said, we all die. But you're not going to be worried about it, and you don't have to have this fear of hell. Like, that's the problem. Instead of going, well, if I end, and that's it, I won't be upset about it because I won't know about it. I won't know anything. My brain won't be conscious. It will just be the end. Christians have to believe, oh, if it ends and I've done bad things, I'm going to hell. Forever. Forever. And yeah, they can say, hey, I'm going to heaven and that's going to be great and stuff. I don't believe that, but there's the flip side. And everybody's done terrible crap sometime. Everyone has done some dumb shit or some terrible stuff or made mistakes, and enough for you to suspect, hey, would a perfect God forgive me? Maybe not. And that's what causes this incredible anxiety that Christians have of, am I going to be sentenced to this burning place forever, for an eternity? I don't have to worry about that. I'm just, as far as I know, I'm just going to end. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think that if I was in pain and suffering, if I had some sort of disease and suffering, I would want it to end. I think it can be a great blessing to end if you are in pain, diseased, suffering greatly, and your quality of life is not worth living. And only the person, don't get me wrong, only the person can decide that. Only that person can decide if that is the case or not. However, I think if I was in that situation, I would just want my life to end. And so I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid of suffering throughout the rest of my life. That does worry me. I don't want to be in that position. But my wife knows that. I think everybody knows that. It's fine. But that's why life's so important. It's not because it's, oh, this is just a thing that we do until we get into heaven. It's because this is the only life that has been demonstrated to actually exist to me. It's why my life is important to me. But yeah, I mean, but what I see is this tendency of people having a hard time, maybe getting onto substance, maybe fucking up their life, basically. Colloquially speaking, I don't know. Losing influence because they're an influencer, and then coming back with God and sort of moving that addiction from, whatever substance it was, whatever they were doing wrong, whether it was, partying, sex, all of these things that was disrupting their life, going and basically doing it for God, and then coming back into the God sphere to kind of jumpstart their career by just appealing to Christians. And I don't see it as particularly healthy. Because like she said, she's still worried about hell. She's still, and this is how I overcame fear of flying. Yeah, but if you do something wrong and you're worried about forgiveness, you're back in exactly the same position, right? It's kind of like a crutch. And the thing about a crutch, if you have to rely on a crutch, you're never going to learn to walk. You're never going to run again. You're going to always, like, we want to do. Okay, I'm really, really beating this metaphor across the head. I get you, but I really think you need to do physical therapy to get you off that crutch, to stop you having to rely on something in order to live your life. And one of those things is going, hey, I'm going to die. That's okay. You may not even know what comes after. That's okay. Whatever it is, it'll be okay. Because if God is truly all good, just because someone doesn't believe in him, I don't think an all good God would torture that person for eternity. Like, why? Like, why? Because he gets, the last and final word? Because he can show you how powerful it... Okay. I mean, it's incredibly immoral. But sure. But the government demands I suffer? Okay. Oh, look, I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not that impressed with our current government. I think that they are pandering too much to the US. I think that they need to be aligning with Canada and Europe against this kind of stuff. But hey, I usually don't do politics, so I'm not going to get too far into it, but I'm not happy with them at the moment. I can show you how dangerous that stuff is, Mark. Lots of dead... Yeah. And this whole idea of, hey, I'm going to be happier in heaven, it has led to some truly, truly terrible outcomes, especially with people that do have other mental illness, like bipolar, for instance. going, hey, if heaven's going to be so great, why don't I go there and take my kids with me? Just horrible stuff, and it turns out very badly. So, what I would recommend if people are having problems with substance or mental and any of this stuff is see a professional, somebody who has been trained and has the necessary skills. Like I said, and it is a terrible analogy because I know physical hurts and mental illness are not the same thing. But if you break your leg, you're not going to go, well, I'm going to try all kinds of stuff and go to a priest to reset it. No, you go to a hospital, you go to a doctor, you find an expert in the field. Same is true for mental health or having problems with substance or any of these problems. We find somebody who's an expert in it, who has been accredited to deal with these problems, because that is the best solutions we've got. If priests provided the best solutions, they would be the ones accredited. But they're not, because they aren't, because these evidence-based solutions are the ones that work. So we want to try to, use the ones that work. It's why we don't go to faith healers for a broken leg. No, we go to the emergency room. We absolutely go to the emergency room. And, get help from specialists. Absolutely. But yeah, it does worry me. She does worry me a lot. I think that sort of this whole idea of, well, I want my husband to be president. If your husband's not president, you don't even have a... that entire sentiment of exceptionalism is really weird and disturbing. I don't know who her husband is. I don't know if they have any political aspirations, but it is just weird. And the inability to follow a single thread is kind of worrying. She went from Vines to the presidency to Gypsy Rose Blanchard for some reason. It is incredibly unsettling. And I'm not sure that she is on top of her problems. I hope so. But sort of just, transferring it onto, well, God's got me, I'm fine because of God. I don't think that's a very healthy way to address it. So it kind of was weird. It kind of was weird. But thank you so much, everybody. This has been interesting. And I want to give a big shout out to my wife, Lynn, who did suggest this, because it kind of was one of those rabbit holes for me. The more I looked, the more, not disturbed, but concerned I was for this kind of thing. Sort of suggesting Jesus instead of looking at therapy for a phobia it's worrying. It's worrying. Because I think that as soon as you doubt Jesus, you've got your phobia back. It's not a good way to address the problem. We really want to have people going to the right sources, and I don't think listening to somebody, even me, on YouTube or some kind of social media platform is people give advice, take it with a grain of salt, including from me. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. That's why my sort of recommendation is to go to one of these people to get help from somebody that knows what they're talking about. Not, hey, just if you've got a fear of flying, just Jesus. No. That's not useful in my opinion, because she is not an expert on anything. She cannot claim to solve people's flying issues. And look, as anecdotal advice, it's fine. But take advice with a grain of salt. Just because it works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. And I think that getting evidence-based care is a way better solution. But I will be trying to release something tomorrow, so keep that in mind. It's going to be a Bust and Dustin, which I haven't done for ages. A room rumble with Dustin. Beautiful. Just nonsensical, all over the place, chaotic. All the things that people love out of a room rumble. So hopefully I can get that tomorrow. I'm not going to promise, but I promise I'll do my best. On Sunday or Saturday night Eastern time, Sunday my time, we're going to be back over at Better Than Embers for part who knows of that debate between Destiny and Dinesh D'Souza. That review which is going on. So please do join me for that. That should be a lot of fun, because D'Souza is getting absolutely reeked, and I will link Ember's channel. But thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share if you do think someone should see how influencers trying to reclaim notoriety through Jesus, because I think it is fascinating and kind of worrying, but you know, all I can do is point it out. And maybe she's not a fundamentalist, I will admit that, but it is certainly concerning what people are doing. Anyway, peeps, do have a fantastic day. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Oh, it's my turn this time? Oh, it's my turn? Well, subscribe to Embers anyway. Yes, it's Dustin Buck Phantom. Weren't you there? Weren't you there for that one over on Aiden's? I think you were there, Phantom. I'm not sure if you talked very much, but I think you were there, and it was a wild time. So I definitely have to upload it. But yeah, do take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.